Pretty sure it's
Welcome to Into the Podverse with your host, Tony Doe. This is where innovation meets storytelling and challenges transform into opportunities. So join me, Tony Doe, on an auditory journey that unveils the secrets of this burgeoning medium. Uncover the hidden gems of podcasting from my perspective and with exclusive interviews from the masters of the Podverse. During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, Kevin Masaba discovered the flexibility of podcasts in content consumption compared to traditional radio. And here on the show, he talks about their rising popularity.
So this is about 2020. I knew about podcasts before, but how I first come to interact real life with the podcast is about 2020 during COVID time, when we had a lot of time to check out what we wanted to listen to and entertain yourself. But then also I was trying to look for solutions for my clients who were struggling with their radios. They didn't know how to go about it. So I said, let me look out for solutions. So along the way online, I learned on live radio broadcasts, whereby you could actually have a radio online and run it on your phone, on an iPhone. And I was like, okay, this is very fascinating. But then as I've done it now over the years, I think being futuristic, podcast is the way to go, because it gives a lot of freedom. And now people don't want to listen to radio. For example, I'm looking to listen to a political talk show. I don't want to listen to radio until evening. That's when my favorite show comes up. People want to go straight up to things they like to listen to. I'm looking for love advice. I don't want to wait on those traditional radios who have a tendency of running such programs only in the night. And presumably that's when people want to listen to love advice. That's not true. So podcast gives you a lot of freedom to listen to what you want at any time and anywhere. And this has really fascinated me. But still the challenge is that most old school people don't believe in podcasts. They believe we tell them about podcasts, they are going to so the internet is expensive. So who is going to listen to it? So how many people listen to it? So this is when I get very passionate about, and I choose to start educating people about this kind of new movement of podcasts.
Kevin recognizes the transition from traditional media such as radio to newer platforms like social media and podcasts. In his opinion, it's crucial to involve the younger generation and educate them about the potential of podcasting as the future of media.
So what drove me to share this with the young generations? Because it's literally, for me, it's a recruitment process. Knowing that the people at school today do not have the same challenges as we had yesterday when we were in high school, when radio was the biggest thing. Because yesterday, not long ago, radio was the social media that we had in Uganda or worldwide, that if you needed to listen to any new song, you had to listen to radio. If you needed to know what is trending in the world, you had to listen to radio. But now, with social media and podcasts taking the forefront now, which has more characteristics of a radio station, is the way to go. And now I felt it's my conviction to go down to schools and have a chat with these young people who are going to be tomorrow's consumers and tomorrow's podcasters. So that's the reason I actually decided that I start this project with tomorrow's influencers and decision makers. And I hope my conviction that probably in the next 4 years, podcast should be a worldwide phenomenon. It is, but not as deep. And I'm trying to see if I can take this to the last man down to understand that there's a movement of the new way of media. And of course, we are privileged that now podcasts can be run on DRB Plus, DRB and DAB plus, and that's a plus, and that's the reason why I choose to go to schools, teach these people how to do these things, and you never know, they could make a career out of it.
Despite facing challenges and skepticism, Kevin is determined to change the perception of podcasting in Uganda and promote it as a legitimate career path for young people.
So this pop-up studio, podcast and radio studio idea hit me some time back when I was thinking of how do I take podcasts to the people. And I was like, wait, the old people would think I'm mad. Who believe in FM, you look for a radio and then you're supposed to tune and then listen to your favorite program. I was like, the students are much easier to teach them something new and they will jump on it. And these are not just ordinary students. I've chosen to go with high school students who are more trendy and will easily adopt to the ideas that you give them because already they have access to phones, they have access to data. So Pop-Up Studio is literally we put equipment together, hit a school, call up these guys in their groups, like school clubs. Some of them have literature clubs, have the debate clubs and all this. So that we can transform whatever you're doing in your schools, in your clubs, and make podcasts out of them. So what do we need to do? Me and a team of 2-3 guys, one with a camera, the other one with microphones. We set up a small round table of microphones, talk to these students on what a podcast is all about, what opportunities of podcasts present to them as students at school and after school, and the ideas they have in their heads that they should come up with something they would like to say, because we're using the TikTok approach. Someone sits there and they're hit by an idea and they pick up their phone and they do a TikTok challenge. So we want to take that idea of TikTok into podcast and make it more fun for the young guys. And this is when the idea of the pop-up studio, podcast and radio studio, if they want to try out their radio skills, we give it to them. If they want to do podcasts, we tell them, now that's a real job. We tell them how to research, put content together, rehearse through it, look for the most easiest way to record your podcast, either using your phone. But of course, we have a few gadgets where we sit down, record their stuff, edit them, and play it back to them and show them a number of platforms where they can actually upload and publish their content. So literally, the obstacles are many, and I can tell you, because this looks like a crazy idea to most people. These are people between the ages of, say, 25 and above. They're very alien. Most of them, even the people who are quite exposed, that I believe do not see the idea of podcast as something that is viable, as something that can make they can make a living out of. And I keep telling them, if someone is paying you some money because you have followers who are ghost followers, some of them follow you for just to know what is not happening right in your life. The people who follow you on WhatsApp, on your social media, are literally not your fans. Some of them are your trollers. They're just following you to know what progress you have in your life. But if we converted then those people with another way of communication, because podcast literally is a radio station, one person owning a whole radio station by themselves. You're the CEO, you're the presenter, you're the producer of the show. So everything just falls within your means. And actually, you can do it. But so the challenges are that to convince people that actually a podcast can be a career. If now this podcast thing is a new word which has been adopted. Now you can be called a podcaster, not just a social media blogger. If they say social media blogger, it doesn't look quite professional. But podcaster is a whole serious life-changing career that someone can take on and actually be taken very serious about what they do. So the challenge is literally convincing people, which I'm trying to navigate through. And I hopefully by the end of the year, because I plan to take this pop-up radio and podcast studio throughout the country, and the future, it should be an African phenomenon. We want to tell our personal African stories in our African voices, using the platform that God has provided for us now. Of course, technology has, but this is godly.
Kevin emphasizes the accessibility of smartphone recording and urges creators to prioritize content quality over monetization, as he predicts a decline in terrestrial radio in favor of digital platforms.
There's been a challenge that most broadcasters, advertisers, radio owners, with a lot of social media coming, they are complaining about the shrinking in the listenership curve of people who are listening to radio, consuming radio or media, audio content. And there's been that complaint. But I think the young people are not drawn to what to do because of the way we do them. The form of doing media should change. And now podcast provides that media for us to change, adopt to the new form of radio. As for sure, radio will never die, because radio is a human being that it has ears, has nose, has the brains, has the feeling, it cries, it loves, it does everything. And that's radio, and that's the voice behind radio, because radio with just music without a voice isn't a radio. What makes it more intimate is that voice behind it, and that voice is a human being, and that's radio. So radio is coming back. FM terrestrial radio is going down the drain. Very soon, everyone else will be either on podcast, DAB Plus and DRB. That's the way to go. But podcasts are leading the way there, and we are almost there. So it's very essential that we introduce these small bits for people to adopt to the new way of radio, of consuming audio broadcast. So the advantages that I think are important to have someone to have skills in this audio production. It is very important today that you should be able to sit down on your computer or on your phone and be able to record, edit, and publish your voice without having to have so many gadgets. So the skilling is very important. People have phones. All they do with their phones is basically WhatsApp. Yes, WhatsApp is good. Also, there's a lot of things to do with WhatsApp, marketing and everything. It also provides a platform where you can record yourself and publish. You could actually do a podcast in your groups, in your WhatsApp groups, by recording using the WhatsApp microphone and doing a short clip of a podcast. So a podcast is going to evolve. It's going to be in so many fragments that people need to appreciate. And in fact, people are already doing podcasts without them realizing that that's actually a podcast. But unless they package them well and publish them in the right places is when it becomes a job. It when it becomes a whole career for themselves. You find someone communicating from morning to evening using WhatsApp, but that would have been a whole podcast that they would put it somewhere and people would get. Someone goes for an event, is attending an event, let's say Grammys or what, and they keep sending voice notes and videos and all. That's a podcast. You could do a whole podcast with just that content that you have. And you'd make money because people are asking, how do you make money with podcasts? Then before you think about making money, what content are you making? Do you have any content down? Yes or no?
Despite challenges within the school system, plans are on the way to establish recording facilities, potentially in collaboration with Victoria University. This venture not only aims to foster creativity, but also opens doors for future opportunities in podcasting.
So, the reactions are immense. The students are very excited. I remember when we were at Taiba the other day recording the things, in the beginning when we were trying to tell them, take them through, they didn't really understand. We did the setup, put the cameras right in their faces, do the microphone setup. When they listened back, They said, I want to do this every day. How can I do it? But unfortunately, school systems now here in Uganda don't really give them a lot of chance to have that liberty to be able to record every day. But I'm very excited, and I already see the vision. I've already seen many parents coming to my inbox and saying, how do you get to do this every day? Do you have a setup studio where I can drop my kid every once in a while, come and pay for their studio time and record their podcast? And I said, yeah, I'm working on that. And as a matter of fact, we have some small facility somewhere, and I'm trying to work with a university, Victoria University, to come up with studios that are going to cater to recording these walking podcasters, and that you never know what happens after that.
Kevin believes that podcasts are as indispensable as social media platforms because they offer authenticity and direct communication with audiences. He envisions a future where pop-up podcast studios can be deployed anywhere, giving people the power to share their voices. He thinks that podcasts can serve as vital communication tools in various settings, such as hospitals and schools. Kevin encourages organizations to embrace podcasts as a way to complement their existing communication channels, providing convenience and accessibility to their audiences.
Yes, the future of the pop-up podcast studio, this is a place where we can even pop up in a hospital and set up a studio and ask people to come and have something they want to say about it. Yeah, it's basically giving the people the voice to say what they want to say. The future of pop-up studio is to take this pop-up studio to each and every school and every setup that needs their voice to be heard. I mean, we have universities as well, where we have doctors. I mean, in the previous podcast class I was handling under MasterCard, we had lawyers, teachers, nurses, insurance people who want to come and study, understand how to do and publish podcasts that they can put information that can easily be got by their customers. So a customer doesn't need to walk somewhere. Most of this information should have already been talked about somewhere in a podcast. For example, me and my team went and visited it's called URA, Uganda Revenue Authority, the tax body in Uganda. We had a conversation and said, in their tax education, they want to start doing podcasts about the most asked about questions in the tax section, whereby where do I pay my taxes, when do I file my returns, when I am importing a phone, what are the taxes on there. There should be all sorts of podcasts. And as speak now, every organization, every human being needs to own a podcast just as they own social media pages. Because here, podcast has a voice, it's believable, it is authentic, it's because it's coming from your real mouth. Every university needs a podcast. Every school needs a podcast to talk about them and what they do. Not just to hire a PR company to come and record what they're saying and go and put, because people now know that you have hired someone to talk on your behalf. But if you're school, you can never exhaust the good things about you, or a hospital, or a law firm, or a bank, or a tax body, or whatever you think about. Aviation needs to have their own podcast where they discuss things about them that the public can have a portal. The podcast should be able to replace their websites, the work websites that they own in their banks. Some of these government and organization websites are not updated. Now today, when you own a podcast, it should be very easy for you, at least once in a month, where you come and talk about things about you. If you're a bank, you want to tell us about, let's say, about your annual returns. How did the business fare? If you're in a tax body, you don't need to go to hire a media house to come and publish what you have. So the future is unlimited.
Kevin, who has more than 20 years of experience in FM radio, points out a major difference between the uncertainty surrounding audience measurement on traditional radio and the transparency offered by podcasts. He highlights the challenge of accurately measuring FM radio audiences and contrasts it with the precise metrics available for podcasts.
I think that podcast has reshaped on how people consume information. Now that someone has a choice to choose what they want, specific targeted content, as compared to consuming content that you actually don't want at all. And that has been the problem that, you know, on FM, I've worked on FM for about 24 years, and many questions they had this question I've ever encountered is someone asking, so how many people listen to your radio? You cannot tell the number of people that listen to your radio station, FM radio station, but you can tell the number of people who have checked out your podcast online, and that's very important. So if we keep staying in an assumption way, assuming that we have listeners, everyone, especially on FM, everyone assumes they have people listening to them, even when they can't account for how many people are listening to them. Here, I actually know the number of people that are listening to me.
Kevin showcases examples where students have led and managed important projects. For instance, some students have created podcasts for youth empowerment programs in Uganda. He believes that it is crucial to inspire and motivate students to create their own podcasts, which helps them develop independence and professionalism. Kevin's approach is part of a larger trend where people are using podcasting to pursue their interests and establish themselves as entrepreneurs.
The most fulfilling is when the kids want to listen back to themselves. They really say, so how did I fare? They want to ask and understand how this went. And when you upload, you listen to the kid you've just talked to and taken them through a hush program for how to do podcast within about maybe a day. And then tomorrow you listen to their podcast and they're sounding very clean, clear, and focused on what they want to say. And they're telling you, I need to do this more. For me, they need the hunger that these young people have to have their own platforms. Now they know that actually they have the power within them to do whatever they want to do. That they don't have to walk from here, walk to a station X to look for a job. That they can do, actually get hired or hire people or hire themselves by just using what they have in their hands. And for me, that is very fulfilling. But also my other fulfilling way is when I see some of my students who have begun making money off these podcasts, who have been given projects to run off this. I know there's a project in Uganda. It's a youth empowerment project. One of our students was given a task to be the one in charge of running the podcast. And for me, that's very amazing. Of course, I've done this over the years. So some of my students, many of them have helped connect them into the working world, those who prefer to work on radio. But I'm encouraging that even if they work on radio, they should own their individual podcasts. And I think that's more fulfilling. And if we keep going like that, everyone is going to become their own boss. And I think that's what everyone else dreams of, but also keeping very professional.
Kevin emphasizes the importance of seizing opportunities and adapting to changing communication trends across generations. He highlights the power of ideas and execution, asserting that true capital lies in innovation and implementation rather than just monetary resources. Kevin also points out a generational shift in information consumption, urging older individuals to embrace new technologies to avoid becoming obsolete. His message serves as a timely reminder of the need to embrace change and remain relevant in an ever-evolving digital landscape.
Yeah, just like I've said, the experiences are very many. I have learned that you do not have to have so much to start something. everything starts with an idea. And when you have an idea, go out there, try it, do it. Other people will find you along the way. I've learned that capital is not actually money. Capital is the idea that you have and how you execute it. It can only attract money after the idea has been executed. But then also looking at for you to be able to make it what you want to do is looking at the problems and looking for the solutions for the problems in your community. So I have come to appreciate that there's a gap in how generations consume information, and that these old people, the ones who believe in a certain way of communication, are getting extinct. And the people that will really be here and consume this and pass it on are the ones that are growing. So I want to survive and help those who are going to be the tomorrow's decision makers come into play, and also let the older ones appreciate that there's a new movement that they need to jump bus. If they don't, they'll be left out. You've seen many African parents being nice to their kids only when they want to be helped to load data on their phones or to help them fix their phone. And that's when the guy comes, your P3 kid is taking money from your phone because you have no idea on how to run it. They say, my son, first come and see what is happening here. So I can't even see my phone. The kid can even just come and reduce the lighting on your phone because they know you have an impairment with your eyes. And then you have to call them. They say, I think you need to load 50,000 to get this light to come back to life. And this is the solution I'm trying to say. If you don't jump ship now, you'll be left out. The future can't be stopped.
Into the Podverse is brought to you by Tony Doe Media and is produced by yours truly. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts, and do be sure to leave us a complimentary note via the links in the description. May the Podverse be with you.